Long before the legendary cities of Greece or Rome reached their peak, a civilization deep in the heart of Mesoamerica had already built supercities that defied imagination. We're talking about the ancient Maya, a people who, without beasts of burden, metal tools, or the wheel, engineered some of the most spectacular urban centers the world has ever seen. Welcome back to our journey into the Maya world. Forget the image of scattered tribes in the jungle. We're talking about sprawling metropolises like Tikal and its great rival. These weren't just settlements. They were centers of power, art, and cosmic belief. Picture this: towering pyramids piercing the rainforest canopy, vast plazas teeming with people, and stone-paved causeways connecting it all. It was a world buzzing with life, trade, and political intrigue. Let's start with a city that shatters all expectations. Flourishing centuries before the classic Maya period, El Mirador was a true giant. At its height, it was larger than ancient Rome, its ceremonial heart dominated by two colossal pyramid complexes, La Danta and El Tiger. The La Danta pyramid, in particular, is one of the largest pyramids by volume in the entire world. Standing atop its massive base platform, it's not just a building, it's an artificial mountain, a man-made sacred landscape. How did they achieve such feats of engineering in the challenging rainforest terrain? The Maya were master builders. They used limestone, which was abundant in the region, quarrying it and then burning it to create a type of plaster and mortars that was incredibly durable. They built their cities on raised platforms to avoid seasonal flooding, and they constructed elaborate systems of reservoirs and canals to manage water resource that was both a blessing and a curse in this environment. They were true masters of adapting to their world and shaping it to their will. At the heart of each city was the king, the Kawalajaw, or Holy Lord. He was more than just a ruler. He was a divine figure, a conduit between the mortal world and the realm of the gods. His life was a series of elaborate rituals, from bloodletting ceremonies to presiding over sacred ball games, all designed to maintain cosmic balance. Monuments called stelae, carved with intricate hieroglyphs and portraits of these rulers, stood in the city plazas. These weren't just art. They were political statements, a record of lineages, glorious victories, and the divine mandate to rule. They tell us the story of kings like Jasor-chan Kayawel, Eye of Tikal, who, after a period of subjugation, defeated the rival kingdom of Kalakmel in 695 AD, an event that reshaped the political landscape of the entire region. And that brings us to a crucial point. The Maya were never a single, unified empire like the Romans or the Incas. Instead, their world was a complex network of rival city-states, a dynamic web of alliances, vassalage, and constant warfare. Tikal and Kalakmul were the two superpowers of the classic period, their rivalry playing out like a geopolitical chess game across the Maya lowlands for centuries. They controlled vast networks of smaller, subordinate cities, and their influence waxed and waned with every battle won or lost. Think of it like a real-life Game of Thrones, played out under the jungle canopy with jaguar thrones instead of an iron one. But these cities weren't just arranged haphazardly. There was a sacred geometry to their layout. The placement of pyramids, temples, and plazas was often aligned with celestial events like the solstices or the movements of Venus. The city itself was a microcosm of the Maya cosmos, with the pyramids acting as sacred mountains connecting the underworld, the earthly realm, and the heavens. The great plazas were the primordial sea of creation. To live in a Maya city was to live within a physical manifestation of their deepest spiritual beliefs. It was a stage for the drama of gods and men. And why did others, like Tikal, endure for centuries, weathering political storms and military defeats? The answers are complex and still debated by archaeologists today. It was likely a combination of factors: environmental strain, prolonged warfare, shifts in trade routes, and internal political instability. The rise of one city could often mean the decline of another, as power and resources were redirected. The story of the Maya isn't one of a single, linear trajectory, but a dynamic cycle of growth, competition, and transformation. The ruins of Tikal, Calakmul, and El Mirador are more than just stones. They are the legacy of a brilliant and complex civilization. They are a testament to human ingenuity, political ambition, and a profound connection to the cosmos. As we stand in the shadow of these pyramids, we're not just looking at the past. We're looking at one of history's greatest urban experiments. The Maya civilization, with its towering pyramids and advanced knowledge of the cosmos, seems to have vanished overnight. Cities fell, monuments crumbled, but the people didn't just disappear. So what really happened? What could bring such a mighty empire to its knees? For decades, we've been captivated by this mystery, picturing a sudden, dramatic end. But the truth is far more complex and, in many ways, more fascinating. Forget the alien theories and supernatural explanations. The real story, pieced together by scientists, is a gripping tale of environmental disaster, human struggle, and remarkable resilience. We're diving deep into the evidence, exploring the 5 leading scientific theories that explain the Great Maya collapse. We allow travel from the dried-up lake beds of the Yucatan Peninsula to the halls of power and warring city-states. It's not about a lost people, but a civilization forced to adapt in the face of catastrophe. First up, let's talk about water. Or rather, imagine a drought so severe it lasts for centuries. This isn't science fiction. It's a reality proven by science. Researchers have drilled deep into the sediments of lakes and oceans near ancient Maya sites. By analyzing layers of gypsum, a mineral that forms when water evaporates, they've created a precise timeline of rainfall. Around 800 AD, right when the southern Maya cities began to decline, a series of punishing megadroughts struck the region. We're talking about a 40 to 70% reduction in annual rainfall. For a society dependent on agriculture and rainwater collection in massive reservoirs, this was catastrophic. The corn withered, the reservoirs ran dry, and the foundation of Maya life began to crumble. This wasn't just a bad year, it was a climate shift that fundamentally altered their world. Now, a drought on its own is bad enough. But what happens when you combine it with a booming population? This brings us to our second theory: overpopulation and resource strain. At its peak, the Maya civilization was incredibly dense. Some cities, like Tico, may have housed up to 90,000 people, with millions more living in the surrounding lowlands. To feed everyone, they cleared vast areas of jungle for farming. This deforestation had a dangerous side effect. It actually made the droughts worse. Fewer trees meant less moisture was returned to the atmosphere, reducing rainfall even further. It also led to soil erosion, washing away the fertile topsoil needed for crops. The Maya were brilliant engineers and farmers, but they may have pushed their environment to a breaking point. As resources dwindled and the population grew, the pressure mounted, setting the stage for conflict. And that conflict is our third major factor: political instability and constant warfare. The classic Maya period wasn't a unified, peaceful empire. It was a collection of powerful city-states like Tikal and Caracal, constantly vying for dominance. For centuries, these rival kingdoms were locked in a complex dance of alliances, trade, and brutal warfare. Inscriptions on stone monuments, Kadyid stelae, tell a vivid story of battles, captured kings, and ritual sacrifice. As the environmental crises deepened, this warfare intensified. Rulers, unable to provide for their people or appease the gods to bring rain, may have turned to military conquest to seize scarce resources like food, water, and tribute. But this only made things worse. Wars disrupted farming, destroyed cities, and diverted precious resources to the military. Instead of working together to solve the crisis, Maya society turned on itself, accelerating its own decline. With all this internal conflict, it's no surprise that long-distance trade routes began to fall apart. This is our fourth theory: the collapse of trade. The Maya elite relied on a sophisticated network that brought in essential goods and luxury items from across Mesoamerica. We're talking about obsidian for tools and weapons, jade and quetzal feathers for royal adornments, and salt, a vital nutrient. These trade networks were the arteries of the Maya world, connecting cities and economies. But as warfare escalated and city-states weakened, these routes became unsafe and eventually broke down. Powerful coastal cities, which controlled sea trade, began to rise in prominence, shifting the economic power away from the inland centers of the south. Cut off from vital goods, the authority of the inland kings crumbled. Their inability to provide the luxury items that signified their divine right to rule was another nail in the coffin for the traditional political system. The final piece of the scientific puzzle is the idea of climate change cycles. The megadroughts weren't just a random event. Scientists believe they were part of larger, natural climate patterns, possibly linked to shifts in ocean currents like El Nino. But the Maya may have inadvertently made a bad situation much worse. As mentioned, extensive deforestation not only reduced local rainfall, but also released carbon into the atmosphere. While not on the scale of modern industrial emissions, it was an early example of humans impacting their own climate. This combination of natural cycles and human activity created a perfect storm. The environment that had sustained the Maya for over 1,000 years was changing, and their way of life, so intricately tied to the rhythms of rain and sun, could no longer hold. But here's where the story gets really mysterious. Even with these powerful explanations, some things just don't add up. Why were some of the largest cities abandoned so suddenly? And if it was a gradual decline, where did all the people go? This leads us to the most intriguing part of the Maya collapse. When archaeologists started using LiDAR technology, a kind of laser radar that can map the ground from an airplane, even through dense jungle canopus, they were stunned. The scans revealed a landscape far more complex than anyone imagined, with hidden causeways, terraces, and thousands of previously unknown structures. But they also confirmed the abrupt abandonment of major urban centers. People didn't just move to the countryside. The heart of their society was simply left to the jungle. What could cause such a rapid exodus? This is where some alternative theories come into play, not as the sole cause, but as potential final blows. One compelling idea is pandemic disease. In densely populated cities with strained sanitation and nutrition, a virulent epidemic could have swept through, killing a huge portion of the population in a short time. Unfortunately, tropical environments are terrible at preserving the kind of evidence needed to prove this. Another theory points to a catastrophic volcanic eruption somewhere in the region, which could have blanketed the sky with ash, causing crop failures and a volcanic winter. While there's no definitive evidence for a single, massive eruption at the right time, it remains a tantalizing possibility. These mystery factors remind us that the collapse wasn't a single event. It was a cascade of failures, where drought, war, and famine may have been capped off by a final, devastating blow like a plague. One of the most important things to understand is that the collapse didn't happen everywhere at once. It was a rolling, regional process that spanned over 200 years. The southern lowlands, home to iconic cities like Tikal and Palenque, were the first to fall between 800 and 900 AD. This is the classic collapse we always hear about. But while these cities were being swallowed by the jungle, Maya civilization in the northern Yucatan Peninsula, at sites like Chichen Itza and Uxmal, was actually thriving. They had different agricultural strategies, better access to coastal trade, and were perhaps more resilient. However, a second wave of decline, also linked to drought and warfare, hit these northern cities a few centuries later. This regional staggered collapse shows that there wasn't one single reason for the fall, but a complex set of local conditions that determined each city's fate. So, let's bring it all together. What really happened to the Maya? The Great Disappearance was never a disappearance at all. It was a transformation. The Maya people didn't vanish. Their political and social structure collapsed. Faced with an unprecedented environmental crisis, a series of megadroughts, amplified by their own actions, their society buckled. The divine kings lost their authority. Warfare spiraled out of control. Trade routes failed, and the great stone cities, symbols of their power, became unsustainable death traps. The people did what anyone would do. They left. They abandoned the failing cities and moved, dispersing into smaller, more sustainable communities, adapting to a new reality. The descendants of the architects of Tikal and Palenque are still here today, millions of them living in Mexico and Central America, speaking their ancestral languages and carrying on their culture. The collapse wasn't the end of the Maya people, but the end of a specific way of life. It's a powerful, cautionary tale of how even the most advanced civilization is ultimately at the mercy of the environment. For centuries, people have said the Maya vanished, But what if the truth is far stranger? What if the Maya didn't disappear at all? They transformed, and the real mysteries begin long after their so-called collapse. Imagine a civilization so advanced that their astronomers could predict eclipses with stunning accuracy, a people who developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in the ancient world, and whose political dramas played out across sprawling jungle cities. We've all seen the images of majestic temples being swallowed by the green canopy, their stone carvings whispering tales of kings and gods. We've heard the story of a great people who built wonders, only to abandon them and fade into history. But that's not the real story. It's a myth. The Maya didn't just build pyramids. They built a culture so resilient that it outlasted empires. They didn't vanish, they adapted. They evolved, and they're still here. Forget everything you thought you knew, because we're about to uncover a story of survival, legacy, and a civilization that was never truly lost. The biggest mystery of the Maya begins with a truth most people don't know. Millions of Maya still live today. Right now, across Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, and Honduras, vibrant Maya communities are thriving. The languages you hear in their markets, the intricate patterns woven into their textiles, the ceremonies performed in hidden groves, these are not relics of the past. They are the living, breathing heart of a culture that has been passed down through countless generations. So why do our textbooks and documentaries keep repeating the line that they disappeared? The answer lies in a profound misunderstanding, one that began with the arrival of the Spanish. When the conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they didn't find an empty land of ruins. They found a complex network of Maya kingdoms, each with its own ruler, its own traditions, and its own fierce will to survive. But the Spanish chroniclers, looking through a European lens, saw only what they wanted to see. They saw idols instead of gods, superstition instead of science, and barbarism instead of a rich cultural tapestry. They couldn't comprehend a civilization that organized its time around cosmic cycles, or a worldview where the spiritual and physical realms were seamlessly intertwined. This misunderstanding led to one of the greatest cultural tragedies in human history: the systematic destruction of Maya knowledge. Famously ordered the burning of nearly all Maya codices, their sacred books made of fig bark paper. In these priceless manuscripts were centuries of astronomical data, historical records, prophecies, and religious texts. With the flames, a library of a civilization was turned to ash. Lenda later wrote about what he destroyed, ironically preserving a fraction of the knowledge he sought to erase, but the loss was immeasurable. The Spanish aimed to break the Maya spirit by erasing their identity, their history, and their connection to their ancestors. They forced conversions, tore down temples to build churches, and suppressed Maya languages. But they failed, because the Maya didn't store their culture just in books. They stored it in their memory. They encoded it in their oral traditions, in their agricultural practices, in their rituals, and in the very rhythm of their daily lives. While the cities of the classic period were reclaimed by the jungle, the people were not. They simply shifted their way of life. They moved into smaller, more decentralized communities, carrying their legacy with them. The knowledge of the cosmos wasn't lost. It was woven into their farming cycles, dictating when to plant and when to harvest, based on the movements of the sun and stars. The stories of the hero twins from the sacred text, the Paupova, weren't forgotten. They were told around the fire, teaching new generations about creation, sacrifice, and resilience. Today, there are over 30 distinct Maya languages, still spoken by millions of people. Each one is a key that unlocks a unique part of the Maya universe. When you hear Case in the highlands of Guatemala or Yucatec Maya in the Yucatan Peninsula, you are hearing the direct linguistic descendants of the scribes who carved glyphs onto temple walls 1,000 years ago. The identity survived. It went underground, adapted, and resisted. The intricate weaving patterns you see in modern Maya clothing aren't just for decoration. They are a visual language, with symbols representing sacred mountains, animals, and cosmic concepts. A woman's hupil, her traditional blouse, can tell you her village, her marital status, and her personal story as Sila, beautiful rebellion against centuries of attempted erasure. So the story isn't one of a mysterious collapse. It's a story of a strategic shift. The decline of the great southern lowland cities around the 9th century wasn't a single event. It was a complex process driven by a combination of factors: prolonged drought, political infighting between city-states, and strained resources from overpopulation. The Maya didn't all die out or get beamed up by aliens. They did what humans have always done when faced with crises. They moved, they changed their political structures, and they found new ways to thrive. Power shifted north to cities like Chichen Itza and Mayopan in the Yucatan, which flourished long after the southern cities were abandoned. The idea of a singular collapse is a Western simplification of a much more nuanced history of cultural transformation. Let's explore some of the traditions that survived against all odds. Take the Lacandan Maya, who lived deep in the jungles of Chiapas, Mexico. For centuries, they maintained a way of life remarkably similar to their ancient ancestors, practicing their traditional religion and preserving sacred knowledge. They were a living link to the pre-Columbian past, a window into a world untouched by Spanish influence for a very long time. Or consider the Day of the Dead celebrations in Maya communities. While it shares elements with the wider Mexican tradition, it is deeply rooted in ancient Maya beliefs about the journey of the soul after death and the importance of honoring ancestors. They build altars, not just with photos and food, but with specific offerings that connect to the Maya cosmovision, creating a bridge between the world of the living and the world of the spirits. And what about their knowledge of the natural world? The Mayaweri and Stiller, masters of agroforestry. They didn't just clear the jungle, they cultivated it, creating sustainable forest gardens that provided food, medicine, and materials. This is an ancient science that modern ecologists are only now beginning to appreciate. Traditional Maya healers still use a vast apothecary of jungle plants to treat illnesses, a knowledge base passed down orally from master to apprentice, holding potential cures and treatments that modern science has yet to discover. This isn't folklore, it's a sophisticated system of ethnobotany that sustained a civilization for millennia. The resilience of the Maya people today is a testament to the strength of their culture. They are not museum exhibits. They are farmers, activists, artists, politicians, and scholars who are actively fighting to preserve their languages, protect their ancestral lands from exploitation, and have their history told correctly. They are using technology to revitalize their languages and share their stories with the world on their own terms. The narrative of the lost Maya is not just inaccurate, it's a disservice to the millions who carry that legacy forward every single day. By focusing only on the empty ruins, we miss the incredible story of the people who built them and who never left. The Maya did not vanish. They endured. They are a living, breathing civilization, a powerful reminder that cultures can transform, adapt, and survive even the most catastrophic of changes. The real mystery isn't where the Maya went. The real wonder is how they managed to stay. We often hear about their pyramids and their mysterious collapse, but their greatest legacy might be written in the stars. They developed a cosmic understanding so advanced that it continues to baffle and impress astronomers today. This wasn't for tracking seasons. It was a divinatory calendar, used to determine auspicious dates for ceremonies, battles, and even births. Running alongside the Solkin was the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar. This one is more familiar to us. It had 18 months of 20 days each, plus a special 5-day period at the end, called the Waib. The Maya believed that when the 52-year cycle ended, the world was at risk of destruction, and massive ceremonies were held to ensure its renewal. Their entire perception of time was cyclical, a constant dance of endings and new beginnings written in the heavens. But their calendars were just the beginning. The Maya were obsessive observers, and their ultimate prize was predicting one of the most awe-inspiring celestial events, a solar eclipse. For them, an eclipse wasn't just a cool phenomenon, it was a moment of immense power and peril. Failure to do so could mean the downfall of a king or even the entire kingdom. So how did they do it? They created eclipse tables. By meticulously recording the dates of solar and lunar eclipses over centuries, they identified patterns. Imagine the political power this gave a ruler to seemingly command the sun and moon. It was the ultimate demonstration of a divine connection. Their celestial obsession didn't stop at the sun and moon. They were captivated by the planet Venus. We see Venus as the beautiful morning or evening star. They charted Venus's entire cycle, its appearance as the morning star, its disappearance behind the sun, its re-emergence as the evening star, and its period of invisibility again. In 2018, the jungle gave up a secret darker and deeper than anyone expected. For centuries, we pictured the ancient Maya as scattered city-states, swallowed by an unforgiving rain. We thought we had a pretty good handle on their civilization, its size, its limits, but we were wrong. So incredibly wrong. What if I told you that hidden beneath the dense canopy of Guatemala, a sprawling, interconnected mega-civilization has been lying in wait, invisible to the naked eye? Imagine flying a plane over the jungle, but instead of just seeing a sea of green, you're shooting billions of laser pulses down to the ground. These lasers pierce through the trees, bounce off the forest floor, and return to a sensor. A powerful computer then strips away the vegetation layer in the data, like peeling back a digital curtain, revealing the Earth's true surface. And what was revealed in the Pitan region of Guatemala in 2018 was simply It wasn't just a few new buildings. It was an entire landscape, reshaped by human hands on a scale previously thought impossible. The team of archaeologists stared at their screens in disbelief. Where they expected to find isolated pockets of civilization, the LiDAR data painted a picture of a bustling, continuous urban sprawl. We're talking about tens of thousands of structures, not just huts, but stone houses, grand palaces, and even pyramids, all hidden in plain sight. One pyramid, which everyone thought was just a natural hill, was revealed to be a massive, man-made temple complex, part of the ancient city of Tikal. It had been hiding right there, under a blanket of trees, for over 1,000 years. This discovery single-handedly rewrote the map of the Maya world, but it wasn't just the sheer number of buildings that was shocking. It was the connectivity. The LiDAR scans revealed a complex network of causeways, ancient superhighways stretching for miles, connecting cities and towns. These weren't simple footpaths. They were wide, raised roads, engineered to cut through swamps and difficult terrain. This suggests a level of social, political, and economic integration that historians had never dared to imagine. It means these weren't isolated kingdoms, occasionally trading with each other. This was a unified civilization, a true empire of the jungle, with goods, armies, and ideas flowing freely along these incredible roadways. They had essentially terraformed the entire region. And how did they feed this massive population? The laser scans answered that question too. The landscape was covered in intricate systems of agricultural terraces and irrigation canals. They weren't just farming small plots. They were engineering the land on an industrial scale to support a massive population. The sophistication was astonishing. They built canals to drain swamps and create new farmland, and terraces to cultivate hillsides that would otherwise be unusable. This agricultural infrastructure was so extensive that it completely changes our estimates of how many people could have lived there. This leads us to the most staggering revelation of all, the population size. Before LiDAR, the consensus was that maybe 1 to 2 million Maya lived in this region during their classical peak. A respectable number, sure, but the new evidence paints a drastically different picture. Based on the density of houses, the scale of the agriculture, and the sheer size of the urban areas, experts now believe that at one point, upwards of 10 to 15 million people may have called this region home. Let that sink in. 10 million people. That's a population density comparable to some medieval European or ancient Chinese societies. But thriving in what we considered a hostile tropical environment, this changes everything. It means the Maya weren't just masters of astronomy and mathematics, living in a few ceremonial centers. They were master engineers, urban planners, and agriculturalists who commanded a massive workforce and managed a complex society on a continental scale. They didn't just adapt to the jungle, they conquered it. They built a world that was, for a time, one of the most advanced and densely populated on the entire planet. The scale of their civilization was far greater, their society far more complex, and their impact on the environment far more profound than we ever knew. Think about the implications. We're not just adding a new chapter to the history books. We're rewriting the entire volume on the Maya. We now know that their collapse wasn't just about a few cities being abandoned. It was the fall of What could cause a society of 10 million people to vanish, leaving behind cities and highways to be swallowed by the jungle? The questions of drought, warfare, and disease become even more urgent and profound. How did they manage their resources? The LiDAR data has given us a million new questions to ask. And the most exciting part, this is just the beginning. The 2018 survey covered a large area, but it's still just a fraction of the entire Maya heartland. As LiDAR technology is used to scan more of Central America, who knows what other secrets the jungle is waiting to give up. We are living in a golden age of archaeology, where a single technological breakthrough can reveal an entire lost world. The story of the Maya is still being written, or rather, it's being uncovered, one laser pulse at a time. What we thought was the end of their story was really just the beginning of our understanding. This incredible leap in knowledge shows us how much is still out there, hidden from view, waiting for the right tools to bring it to light. It's a powerful reminder that history is not a static, finished book. It's a dynamic, ongoing investigation. And sometimes, the biggest discoveries are the ones that challenge our most fundamental assumptions. The Maya megacities were lost to time, but now, thanks to lasers from the sky, they are found. And they have a story to tell that is larger, more complex, and more awe-inspiring than we ever could have dreamed. You've probably seen it in movies. A fearsome Maya priest on a towering pyramid, a terrified victim, and a dark, bloody ritual. Hollywood created these myths, but archaeology reveals a far more complex and profound truth. Let's separate the sensationalism from the reality. Did the Maya practice sacrifice? But it wasn't the constant, brutal slaughter often depicted. For the Maya, the universe operated on a principle of reciprocity. To maintain cosmic balance and ensure the continuation of life, the rising of the sun, the falling of the rain, had to be offered back to the gods. This offering often took the form of bloodletting. The Maya believed blood contained a portion of this vital life force. Rulers and nobles would perform self-sacrifice, piercing their tongues, ears, or other body parts to offer their own precious blood. This act wasn't about cruelty. It was a profound duty, a way for the elite to nourish the gods and demonstrate their commitment to their people. Think of it less as a horror movie scene and more as a sacred communion, a deeply personal offering to sustain the cosmos. Human sacrifice did occur, but it was much rarer and reserved for exceptionally significant occasions, like the dedication of a major temple or the accession of a new king. Often, the individuals chosen were heisted as captives from rival cities. Their sacrifice was seen as a powerful transfer of energy, a way to conclude a conflict and restore order. It was a political and religious act, not random violence. So, where did the gruesome images come from? A lot of our early understanding of the Maya comes from the accounts of Spanish conquistadors and friars in the 16th century. They arrived with a completely different worldview and a mission to convert. When they witnessed these rituals, they didn't see a complex system of cosmic reciprocity. They saw paganism, devil worship, and barbarism. Their accounts were often exaggerated, colored by their own religious biases, and used to justify their conquest and the destruction of Maya culture. They misunderstood the deep spiritual significance behind the rituals, and that misunderstanding has echoed through history, right into the movies we watch today. By peeling back these layers of bias, we begin to humanize the Maya. We see a people deeply connected to their world, who believe their rulers were divine conduits, intermediaries between the earthly realm and the supernatural. The king wasn't just a political leader. He was the chief shaman, the one responsible for opening portals to the sacred world and ensuring the gods were satisfied. His personal sacrifices were the ultimate guarantee of his kingdom's survival. It's a worldview centered on balance, duty, and a powerful, living connection between humanity, the divine, and the cosmos itself. Now, let's talk about prophecies. Did the Maya predict the end of the world in 2012? The short answer is no. The truth is far more interesting. The whole 2012 phenomenon was a massive pop culture misunderstanding of the Maya calendar. The Maya were brilliant astronomers and mathematicians who conceived of time not as a straight line, but as a series of vast, interlocking cycles. The calendar that caused all the fuss is known as the long count. Think of it like a car's odometer, but for cosmic time. On December 21st, 2012, a significant cycle of the long count ** asterisk of roughly 5,125 years simply rolled over and reset, much like an odometer hitting a major milestone and starting again at zero. It was the end of one great age and the beginning of another. For the Maya, this wasn't an apocalypse. It was a moment for renewal, reflection, and celebration. It was a marker of profound transition, not destruction. There are no ancient Maya inscriptions that predict the end of the world on that date. The idea of a doomsday was a modern invention, projected onto their ancient system. The Maya viewed time as sacred and cyclical. They had multiple calendars running simultaneously, tracking everything from agricultural seasons to grand cosmic eras. The long count was a symbolic system that mapped human history and royal dynasties onto this grand celestial clock. Their prophecies weren't about fiery ends, but about the patterns of time. They believed that by understanding the cycles of the past, they could anticipate the character of the future. Certain days held specific energies, and the end of a cycle brought an opportunity to rebalance and begin anew. Maya shamans, often called Daisipas, continue this ancient tradition. They don't consult the calendar to predict doomsday. They use it as a guide for daily life, for performing ceremonies, and for helping their communities navigate the cycles of life, just as their ancestors did. They interpret the turning of the calendar not as a warning, but as a promise of renewal. The Maya legacy isn't one of fear and apocalypse. It's a testament to an incredibly sophisticated understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and the sacred, cyclical nature of time itself, a wisdom that sees every ending as the dawn of a new beginning. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the real world of the Maya fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into history. See you next time.